So when the Terminator Cobras came out in 2003, there were only a couple of them in town. And one of them was just like this. It was a red fire convertible, the black top, and the chrome wheels. Beautiful looking car. And I remember seeing it around town. I remember getting gas one day, and it was at the pump next to me with a lady driving it with her daughter. And then I remember seeing it here and there throughout town, driving around. And obviously, it was such a special car, I would notice it when I'd see it. And some time went on, and I didn't really see the car anymore. And I'd wonder what happened to it, of course, just like all the other Cobras that are important, the couple of them that were in town. And I started looking on Craigslist as I usually do, and I saw an ad for a 2003 Mustang Cobra engine. And I was really really confused of why somebody would be selling the engine, or what happened to the car, or what car it came out of, because it was in the local Craigslist. So I actually called on the ad. I was interested to know the information about the car and everything. And the guy said, "Oh, well, I'm taking the engine out now, and I'm going to put something better in it later." I thought, well, that sounds kind of fishy. Why would you take an engine out of the car and replace it? Because the Terminator engine, everybody knows, is one of the best engines Ford's ever made. Why would you take it out? There really isn't much better you could put in it. And at this time, the Coyote wasn't out or anything, so it really was the best engine that Ford had around. And so I saw the ad for the engine, and I wondered. He wanted a lot of money for it, but he wanted like $15,000, I think, for the engine. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. Well, some time went on, and my friend, who had the Kenny Bell Supercharged GT, was at his townhome complex, and this guy came up to him, kind of a grungy-looking guy, and he said, "Hey, you want to buy some Mustang parts?" And he said, "Well, I might be interested. What do you have?" He said, "Oh, I got a bunch of Cobra parts." And so he called me, my friend called me and said, "Let's go over and check this guy out. I don't really want to go over there alone. He sounds kind of weird, but he says he's got some Cobra parts." And we're thinking, yeah, right. We're the only people in town with these cars. I didn't think that anyone else had one besides the few. And so we went over and we checked it out, and we couldn't believe what we saw. This guy took us to a storage unit that he owned, or well, he didn't own it. He worked there, and the owner told him that there was a car stashed in one of the units that somebody had been taking apart, and they haven't been paying for the unit, and so it now belongs to the company, and he could have whatever he wanted out of the unit. He could have the whole car. The car was now this guy's as long as he got rid of it, got rid of the parts, did whatever he wanted. So we got there, and the car wasn't there anymore, but the parts were. There was, he had saved the hood and the fenders, the doors, some things on it, and we had no idea what was going on. It turned out that the owner of the car had been keeping it in the storage unit, and he wasn't able to pay for the car, so he decided he was going to start selling parts off of it and try to get it paid for that way. And so he had sold the engine, and he had the IRS halfway dropped out of it. The transmission was apart. The car had about 80,000 miles on it, and he had sold a couple things off it but didn't get very far, and ended up just abandoning it because he knew he wasn't going to be able to pay for it. So the guy that worked there said that basically he knew it was a Cobra. He had looked at the car, looked up on eBay what the hood goes for and the spoiler and things, and he could tell that it was an expensive car and that the parts were worth a lot. But he got scared that that the owner would find the car later if he took it, and I don't know if he knew that you could do a sheriff's sale, or you could apply for a duplicate title, or the company could put a lien on it, or whatever, to keep the car intact. So he got scared, and he chopped the car up into pieces and scrapped it. So he kept the parts that he thought were important, and he chopped up everything else. And we were asking him where the engine was, and he said the engine wasn't there, but the transmission was, but it was opened up. So there was a T56 that was there, and we asked him where it was. He said, it looked like it was all in pieces, so I threw it away. And we're like, oh, you threw away a T56? You gotta be kidding me. Anyway, So we couldn't find, the rest of the things, but the whole IRS was there, the mirrors, the side skirts, a bunch of stuff like that, the gauge cluster. And so we made an agreement, and my friend ended up buying everything in a lump sum. And then later on, he decided to sell those parts, and he made his money back just selling the hood and the trunk, And the trunk lid actually ended up on my other friend's Mach 1 for a little while until he sold it, and the mirrors ended up on Danny Johnson's red Mach 1. He had them painted torch red. And the side skirts and some other pieces ended up on the Kenny Bell car. The seats, the Terminator seats, ended up in the Kenny Bell GT, and the hood was sold and stuff. But anyway, it was so surprising to see a car like this scrapped, parted out into pieces and left for dead like that. And by the time we got to it, the car was gone, so there's nothing we could do about it. But it was just an amazing story. These are the kind of stories you hear about the old muscle cars, like Mach 1s, Boss 429, Boss 302. You hear these stories where people have, put them in a storage unit for years, and then they lost them or lost track of them or who knows what. But anyway, interesting story. The parts lived on in the other cars, but it's unfortunate that a Terminator Cobra was chopped up into pieces and destroyed. So anyway, thought I'd share this story. It's really interesting. More stories to come. Like and subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching.